Merry Christmas, people. I'm your host, Nav Walia, and welcome back to Quarter Life Chit Chat. And let me tell ya, I am fucking dripping with Christmas spirit, okay? Think lights, cookies, baking, Christmas tree, ornaments, and goddamn emotional turmoil. Yep, it is the season of giving, and I have already been given my first rejection from med school. Nothing ruins your day more than an email that basically can be summarized to, thank you, but no thank you. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Was I heartbroken? Not really. I've been rejected a million times in my life. I'm fucking vibing. Was I heartbroken 20 minutes after reading that email? Absolutely I was. Absolutely I was. But you know what? It's like how Mahatma Gandhi says, you should never give up until you give up, and you should do everything properly. So when you give up, make sure you give up properly. And you know what? Right now, I'm not giving up yet. But Lord knows I want to. And you know what? In the spirit of Christmas and in the spirit of giving, I wanted to give you guys the epic stories of where I rejected myself as a baker. And, you know, there's nothing better. There's nothing better in life than taking a trip down memory lane and rehashing your suppressed trauma. So today, I am going to be taking a trip down memory lane and rehashing the past epic kitchen fails that landed me not only on Santa's naughty list, but that also landed me in violating a lot of food safety laws. So without further ado, let's dive into the burned, the bizarre, the crazy, and the hectic stories of me in the kitchen being a baker. So, travel back in time with me, okay? We're gonna travel back to 2011, the glorious era where I blessed the great wide north, that is Canada, with my immigrant-ass presence, okay? It was my first Christmas ever, obviously, as I've said many times. I did not grow up with Christmas in India, and I went to grade 8 in Canada. There was a girl in my class, her name was Emma. Emma brought chocolate chip homemade cookies for everyone. Now, here's the thing. In India, I didn't have an oven. It's not a fucking thing, okay? I didn't have a goddamn oven. And I was just really surprised. I was like, she made cookies homemade? I thought the only thing you can make at homemade, at that age, I really thought the only things you can make at home is tea, Indian food, and that's it. So I was like, okay, this has to be a lie. And I went to Emma and I said, Emma, how did you make these cookies at home? And she's like, well, I have an oven and me and my mom just followed a recipe. And I said, okay, hold on, pause. I have an oven at home. I have a mom. And I think I can bake some cookies too. So what do? I go home and I'm like, I'm going to make some fucking cookies. Again, I'm 11 years old and basically illiterate in the kitchen. Because the only thing I've ever done with food and the kitchen is I've only eaten, never cooked, and only times I'm in the kitchen is to look at the food that is being cooked for me to eat. That's it. And yes, if you're wondering, I did indeed look like a Pillsbury Doughboy at the age of 11. So, I go to the kitchen and I go to my grandma. I'm like, I'm going to make cookies. My dad was like, hey, you know, your step-siblings, they make cookies and stuff. And there's obviously sufficient amount of like baking goods and XYZ you could use. And I said, okay, sick. I pull up a chocolate chip cookie recipe because I also wanted to flex on my classmates that I too can bake. Okay, it was at that moment the most goddamn American Canadian dream. Okay, it was a thing that a immigrant could wish for, is bake, because it was so foreign. I was immediately smitten. And honestly, Emma really inspired me to make something. So I pick up the recipe and they said 2 cups of flour. I said, sick. That sounds lovely. Bang, bang. I put them in a bowl. It says 1 cup of sugar, and I took a step back. I'm like, hold up. Wait a minute. What are we talking about right now? And I was like, you know, in my life at that time, I've only seen my mom use maximum 3 tablespoons of sugar for the whole family when she made tea. Why the fuck am I using a cup? That's a lot of sugar. That's what my math said. So, like a typical Indian mama's boy, I decided to put in 3 tablespoons of sugar in a cup and a half of flour. I go to the next step in the recipe and it says use a cup of butter. And I said, whoa, my mom probably has high blood pressure. That was my thinking. And I said, I am not going to use that much butter. That sounds crazy. Sounds fucking nuts. So, what did I do? I decided to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. Because again, in my life, I've only seen my mom use maximum 2 tablespoons of butter while putting into any dish or something. And I started mixing it. And imagine just by yourself, a cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 3 tablespoons of sugar. What the fuck would that consistently look like? And I looked at it and I'm like, this doesn't look right. And then I had eureka moment. A light bulb flicked in my head and I said, whoa, I remember. In India, my mom puts water in the dough and then she kneads it, which results in a very dough-like consistency. That's exactly what I fucking need. Goddamn water. I put water in it, and guess what, folks? It begins to look that doughy texture. You know what I'm saying? And I put chocolate chips in it, and I'm proud as shit. And I turned that oven on to 450 degrees Celsius. 450 Fahrenheit. And I'm preheating the oven, and I'm like, okay, let's fucking do this. You know, I take the dollops, I turn them into these beautiful cookies. I'm hyped. I put it into the oven. 20 minutes later, I bring them out, and instantly my house smells like a fucking death sentence. And I was like, I thought cookies would smell great. And my mind just immediately does this thing where, you know, it tries to cope with my stupidity at that time. And my mind goes, dude, some of the greatest looking things or some of the best tasting things probably just smell off. Never go by the smell. Which is a terrible idea. By the way, if something looks wrong and smells wrong, it's probably wrong. But that time of mine, it didn't. I wait till the cookies, cool down a little bit, and I take a massive cookie, and I shove it all into my mouth, and I'm so fucking excited, and I bite into it, and I immediately hurl. I immediately fucking hurl. Because, now if you didn't know this, flour is very fucking bitter, okay? And I was basically chewing on a mound of heated flour. And my grandma comes out and she's excited. And she's like, oh my God, Nav, like, let me taste your cookies. And she bites into it. And she's like, I think you skipped sugar. This is fucking terrible. And I'm like, no, it's good. And I was like, I'm going to give it to my classmates. And my grandma looks at me and she's like, don't. You're going to get the shit kicked out of you. You might be wondering, well, Nav, it sounds like you only used 1 cup of flour. No, I didn't. I had 30 classmates in my grade 8, and I wanted to give everybody 4 cookies each. So I probably used 5 cups of flour, and I had, at that time when I pulled out the cookie trays, I had 2 full cookie trays in the oven and 3 ready to go in. And my mom came home from work, and she heard all about this. She took me to my room, she looked at me in my eyes, and she said, you are the type to eat, not the type to cook. Don't fucking bake again. And I didn't. I did not bake at all. Okay, those cookies were so horrendous that I gave up. I gave up on making cookies until I got into university. That's right. 12 years later, I was inspired once again to make some fucking cookies. But I remembered my lesson from the cookie debacle and I said, no, I'm gonna make some brownies. Because that's exactly what an obese kid needed. More brownies. So I decided, I'm going to make brownies. And I go to Save-Ons and I grab some flour, butter, sugar. And I also wanted to make them as chocolatey as possible. I was really in touch with my fucking, Willy Wonka chocolatier inside me. Okay. And I said, what would make a brownie more chocolatey? Chocolates. So far the math is mathing, right? And I'm like, what else I really need? I want to make it not very sweet. So I pick up unsweetened dark chocolate. I take it home. Now my dumbass didn't understand that unsweetened dark chocolate would be bitter, And like I said, I only know how to eat. I don't know how to bake. So I go home, I break out those baker's chocolate. I, melt 2 of them just completely. I put it into my flour. I shove a fuck ton of chocolate powder on it. And I put this time I wasn't stupid. I used a cup of butter because I was like, I know better. And I mix it. And I put in the 1.5 cup of sugar. It said on the recipe. And I mix it and I taste it and it's instantly bitter. It's fucking bitter. And no shit, if we bitter, there's 2 fucking cups of goddamn unsweetened dark chocolate in there. My dumbass was so fucking stupid, it didn't comprehend the chocolate can be bitter. Now you might be wondering, Nav, what did you do to mitigate that? You're right. I put in sugar. I put in 2 cups more sugar, still bitter. 2 more cups of sugar, still bitter. Next thing I know, I think I probably put in about 12 cups of sugar into 1.5 cup of flour. And it became a lot. And you know what? When I would taste the batter, you could taste the grittiness of the sugar. But the greatest thing about it was that it no longer was bitter. It wasn't sweet either. And you'd be surprised. You would think 12 cups of sugar would be sweet. And let me tell you, it wasn't. Because the bitterness canceled out all the sweetness. And it was just normal. Just normal. But it was very thick. Now, what would you do if something's too thick? And I remembered from grade 8 cookie debacle, do not fucking put water, right? Because that's stupid. So I put in milk instead. That just, made it a little bit wet, and I'm like, sick. This is lit. And when I tasted it, I couldn't taste butter anymore. Because there's literally fucking 12 cups of sugar, 1 cup of flour, and a cup of butter. I couldn't taste butter. So I put in 1.5 cup more of butter. Sick. I put it in the pan. I put it in the oven. I cooked that brownie fucking mix for 1 hour and 35 minutes. And it was still running. And I was like, what the fuck is happening here? And I said, I know what it could be. It's that there's no binding effect. So I should probably put in eggs. I take the fucking liquid hot brownie water mix from the oven that's been cooked for 1 hour and 30 and was still runny. I break 3 eggs into it. I whisk it. I put it back in the oven for 1 hour. And it comes out, and this time it's a little solid. It's a little solid. So you know what? Chicken babies helped. Okay? And I take it out, and I'm like, this is going to be sick. I cut into it, and the center's runny, and I'm like, fuck off. I give up. I am so pissed. I am angry. I come back to it 1 hour later, and everything's solid. And I was like, whoa. How about that? I cut into it, and I bite it, and my God, it was delicious. It wasn't delicious in oh my God, this is the best brownie I've tasted. It was delicious in the sense that if a 4-year-old comes up to you and she's like, would you like to buy some cookies for charity? And you just feel shitty by saying no. So you buy it and you taste the cookies and they're dog shit. And the 4-year-old asks you, hey, were the cookies good? You just have to say yes. You're not going to break a 4-year-old's heart. So within that same level, that's how my brownies I baked were. Okay. And I was like, yay. I have my dinner. I'm like, I'm going to heat up the brownie. I'm going to put it into the microwave, heat it up a little bit, eat it. It's going to be delicious. I proceed to do so. I put it in for 20 seconds, I remember. I pull it out. It's immediately fucking paste again. There's too much butter in it, and there's not enough flour to bind the whole thing. So I can only eat it fucking cold. And I proceed to put it in the fridge, and me and my family ate it. Just cold brownies. And here's the thing, 12 cups of sugar, and it still wasn't sweet. That's how bitter it was. And since then, I gave up my idea of ever baking by myself. So I don't bake anymore. Until this year. Flash back to last night. Me and my mom, my mom's recently lost weight, so she's, flexing on me that now she can eat sugar. Plus, I was weirdly coping with, getting rejected from med school, so this time seemed as any. And me and my mom, proceed to make shortbread cookies and peanut butter cookies. I literally only pulled up the recipe. I didn't help because, as you know, I'm fucking cursed. Based on the stories I've told you, I'm cursed in the kitchen when it comes to baking. So I was like, okay, me and my mom, we're going to have some good fun. She proceeds to bake everything, The peanut butter cookies turned out absolutely amazing. Absolutely fantastic, which only my dad eats because peanut butter cookies are literally dog shit. I love shortbread cookies. We make them. We cook them. We put them in the oven. As it said in the recipe, you put it in an 8-inch pan. You cook it. When it gets slightly golden, you take it out, you cut it up, and you let it cool down. And I did exactly that. My mom made everything from scratch. Literally everything. And we taste peanut butter cookies. Fantastic. Even though they're dog shit. Only my dad likes them because he's a little weirdo. And, okay, JK, love you, Dad. And the shortbread cookies turned out fucking dog shit. They turned out very shit. I think we left them raw in the middle because they were bitter. and doughy in the middle. And my mom looks at me. She takes a bite of the cookie. She spits it out on the ground. And she goes, "This is your fault." In the most Indian fashion, she blames it on me. And I look at my mom and I'm like, I literally didn't do anything. I told you what to do as per the recipe. Didn't change anything. Didn't touch anything. And my mom looks at me, and I'm not joking, in the most thickest Indian accent. She goes, "You ruined the aura." And I said, "What?" And she's like, "You being around me when I'm baking ruined the aura of baking." That's right, folks. That's how Indian my mom is. That when shit goes sideways, you blame the child for being a dip fuck. And again, I didn't even help. But apparently I ruined the aura. So I was like, okay, now we have a batch of dog shit fucking shortbread cookies. But guess what, motherfuckers? I have graduated from the baking session and I'm a master baker. I decided to put the cookies back into the oven, cook them properly, flip them, rotate them, all that, make them crispy, and now they're edible. So, you know what? I think what I can take away from last night is that my dream of becoming a master baker might be attainable. And on that note, I'm going to end this episode. I'm really sorry I was not able to release an episode last week, but I'm sure you can understand I was really busy putting up, Christmas tree and my lights and my front yard inflatables, and things just got hectic. But I will be back next week with another episode. I hope you're having a fantastic Christmas season, and I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful time. And do yourself a favor, drink as much hot chocolate as possible, and just have a fucking blast, alright? And if possible, pray that I get into med school, because if I don't, I'm going to be creating an OnlyFans account. So make sure you support that. And on that note, I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much for listening. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.